So he basically said that he doesn't believe that Ukraine will get back Crimea, but maybe Ukraine will get Luhansk and Donetsk. That he basically said that he trusts Ukraine to get Luhansk and Donetsk back. And of course, people were pretty mad at him for saying stuff like that. And in this article, Andrzej Duda he explains his infamous Crimea words. He, as always, put a foot in his own mouth, and now he will explain to us his words. My actions and my stance when it comes to the brutal aggression of Russia on Ukraine was and is from day one pretty simple. Russia is breaking international law. It is the aggressor and an occupier. Wrote on Twitter/X Andrzej Duda. The president has decided to talk about his words from yesterday during his interview with the channel Zero. When asked about Crimea, he said, if we look at it historically, then it was part of Russia for a longer time. And here's where I sort of have to protest the historical line. Okay? I have to really, really protest the historical line. Because, yes, while it was, technically speaking, longer a part of Russia than part of Ukraine historically ever, Crimea was also much, much longer a multinational, multicultural, totally independent place from Russia. It was also a Tatar place, but it also had Greeks and many other peoples in it. The Greeks were put by Russians in, interestingly enough, in Mariupol, the city that was totally ravaged and destroyed by Russia, and that Russia is now sort of rebuilding in order to be able to move in Russians into Mariupol. That is completely traditional Russian modus operandi to sort of take away the people that live in an area, do an ethnic cleansing basically in an area, and then move Russians in, and then declared this is a Russian area, and this has historically been a Russian area before, because ever since we did the ethnic cleansing and ever since we moved in Russian people into this area, it has already been 100 years. So now it's basically historically a Russian area. That is unironically the argument that Russia often makes. Well, the Cossacks were more like Zaporozhia Cossacks. That's the Cossacks were the Cossacks are a pretty interesting topic in themselves. The Cossacks were, well, it's all very complicated to talk about in a few words quickly, because when a lot of those groups formed, there was no such thing as national identity or nation states and sort of nations to speak of. So while it is a nice simplification to say that sort of the that the Zaporozhian Cossacks were fighting for the freedom of Ukraine, for example, it is a sort of nice simplification to create sort of this line, this national mythology for Ukraine. It is also not entirely correct, because the Cossacks had interests that had nothing to do with nationality as we understand it today. That is something that should be understood, that just because, for example, there existed a feudal kingdom of Poland, it does not actually, as it sounds on its face like something that is very unintuitive, but it does not follow that the nation state of Poland is a natural result of the feudal kingdom of Poland, because the kingdom of Poland actually encapsulated a lot more peoples than just ethnic Polish people, if that makes sense. So the actually does not follow that that Poland as we know it today, the nation state Poland, is this natural sort of continuation of the feudal kingdom of Poland. That explaining it would require a whole lecture, and I'm afraid we don't have time for that, because we need to listen to Andrzej Duda trying to explain himself from saying that Ukraine will not get Crimea. That is what we're here today, not for me to explain how nations worked before nation states existed and how the word nation used to mean something totally different than now. That's a big topic to unpack, and we don't have time, unfortunately, but there are many good books on it. So the Russian invasion on Ukraine and occupation of territories that are internationally recognized as Ukrainian, and among them Crimea, is a crime. I'm glad you recognize it, Andrzej Duda, our glorious president. This war cannot end with the victory of Russia. We have to stop, defeat, and block for the future Russian imperialism. Ukraine must win this war, because this war must be won by the free world. We all stand side by side by free, sovereign, and independent Ukraine against the brutal aggression of imperialism, wrote Andrzej Duda, which to me so far those words say nothing about his unfortunate claim that Crimea cannot be Ukrainian again. That is nothing to do with what he said, with his unfortunate clumsy words about Crimea. Well, nation states aren't unnatural extensions of anything. They are political development. Yes, but there's this political narrative that sometimes is sort of, usually it's done by politicians, actually. Usually it's done by politicians, especially nationalist politicians, who will say that basically the entire history of this region was a political build-up to the creation of this nation state, and that the current nation existed basically in some form forever, and that basically it was all a build-up to what we have now, which is not true, and no serious historian will ever discuss things in such terms. Never. If you see a history book that will ever discuss history in such a way, you know you're dealing with a hack rather than a historian, or a historian that was paid a lot of money to write such a book. On Friday, the president asked during a talk with Channel Zero if Ukraine is going to get Crimea back. He said that he doesn't know. He said, I don't know. He stressed that he believes that the country will get back Donetsk and Luhansk. And he said that Crimea is special because of history. Because indeed, if we look at it historically, it was longer a part of Russia. So this is what happens when historically illiterate people try to discuss current geopolitics through the lens of history, quote unquote. You understand how horrible of a weapon history becomes in the hands of the illiterate when even a supposed ally of Ukraine says, well, historically speaking, Crimea, shoo, Russian. Uh, this is very painful. But what am I expecting from a law and justice president? They were a centralized development that imposed itself through imperialism and colonialism. I mean, that's fair. Although it was a little bit different from, it was a little bit different in Eastern Europe because a lot of Eastern European nations developed while being colonized, which is an important thing to sort of analyze and take a look at. A lot of the nations within Eastern Europe were born as nations without territory. The Polish people, the Lithuanians, Ukrainian people, Belarusian people, and all that, all the nice nations from this region were basically born after the country that they shared, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, was done away with via partitions by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. And the formation of the nations as we know them today happened already under the occupation of these three empires. The nations without a land. This is why, for example, the Polish anthem has the lyrics of Poland has not died yet until we are all alive, which means that Poland may not have a territory, but as long as Polish people are alive, uh, Poland exists sort of in this sort of metaphorical way, even without a territory. Okay. Um, so, the chief of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the ambassador of Ukraine react to the words of our amazing president Donald. Yeah, not Donald. I almost said Donald Trump. Of our amazing president Andrzej Duda. I meant Andrzej Duda. It was a slip of the tongue. To these words on Saturday, has reacted the ambassador of Ukraine in Poland, Vasyl Zvarech. Crimea is Ukraine. It is Ukraine, and it will stay Ukraine, which are good words to respond to a stupid statement like that of Andrzej Duda. I'm sorry. And the main basis for this is international law. The main basis for Crimea being Ukraine is international law. That is true. Nation states are cringe. But it is the current thing that we've got. That is the current sort of construct that we currently all operate under. The temporary occupation of Crimea by Russia is a war crime, and Russia will be punished for it. The occupation of Crimea is a joint task of Ukraine as well as the entire free world. It is a duty, and we will no doubt do it. We believe and work together, he stressed. So he basically the ambassador of Ukraine and Poland has chosen to ignore the stupid words of President Andrzej Duda and focus on just positively reiterating again that Crimea is Ukrainian, was and always will be, and that it is our joint task to cooperate together and take it back from Russia, which Donald Duda, which is hard to disagree with. It's true. This is the tweet. Ooh, here we go. Actually, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Radosław Sikorski, has also taken a stance on the ridiculous words of the Polish president. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has stated on the X platform that Poland recognizes the independence of Ukraine in its internationally recognized borders, which the Russian Federation, by the way, has also recognized several times. First, during the treaty from 1990, then the Budapest Memorandum from 1994, and of course, the Treaty of 2003. So they've basically agreed to the international borders 3 times in a row, but because Russia is Russia, they also tend to decide that whatever treaties, whatever decisions and or memorandums, they do not apply to the glorious Russian Federation. So even if the borders are internationally recognized, Russia can just come in and take whatever they want. That is basically the logic of the new Russian Empire. The member of the parliament, Pavel Kowal, who is supposed to be the governmental, who will become the governmental person, sort of, that will, who will be tasked with helping with the reconstruction of Ukraine, has written, Crimea is Ukrainian. There are no other words that an honest politician can say about this matter. There is not a word more that an honest politician can say in this matter. Crimea is Ukrainian. And by the way, what a dig. Okay, somebody has mentioned what I just mentioned. And by the way, somebody should give our president a lecture on history of the Russian Empire, and our president will quickly understand that Crimea has been taken by Russia during the same period that the Polish city Białystok has been taken, and not long before Russia has also taken Warsaw. So, if we follow that logic, if we follow the logic of President Andrzej Duda, Białystok is Russian, Warsaw is Russian. Wild times that we live in. But there is a reason why the current Polish president has the nickname Pen, and that is because during the tenure of the last far-right government, he had the reputation of a politician that is not very smart, that is not very ambitious, that is not very also charismatic, and that his main task is just signing whatever the Law and Justice Party puts before him. That is his main task. We put legislation before you, you sign it. That is your job. Hence his nickname, the Pen. Of course, now he might get a new nickname before now he doesn't want to sign anything that the new government is giving him. Now he wants to send everything to the Constitutional Committee to stall every single piece of legislation. But we've already discussed that topic. Crimea is a peninsula between part of the Black Sea and part of the Azov Sea. According to international law, it belongs to Ukraine. In 2014, because of an armed invasion, the Russian Federation has taken over Crimea and has created an autonomous Crimean Republic. And right after that, due to a controversial referendum, it has illegally incorporated Crimea into its territory. Historically, Crimea has switched sort of ownership, let's call it, through the ages, and it was part of Ukraine, the USSR, the Ottoman Empire, or the country of the Tatars. Not in this order, of course. Of course, it was part of the Ottoman Empire before the USSR. So this is not written. This is not written in a historical order. Just putting it out there. This little listing is not done in a chronological order, which of course should be pretty clear. And yeah. So what do you think? Have you enjoyed this little segment? Have you enjoyed what I had to tell you about the beautiful, beautiful politics of Poland? Would you like more? Would you like seconds? How do you like?